I think it is very safe to say that one of the most controversial things that happened in the 2024 AFL draft was when North Melbourne decided to trade their future first round pick. Now, I remember when I first originally saw this, I just jumped up in excitement as a Richmond fan and started sack tapping my mate next to me out of excitement, because it's just how did this come about? How did the worst team nearly in the game manage to get the next worst team in the game's first round pick and complete another, I think, great haul of draft picks for next season? Can anyone hear my dog just crying in the background? He's like a freaking middle-aged mum watching Bridget Jones at nighttime, just crying her eyes out. But yeah, Richmond getting that North Melbourne first round pick was such a surprise that I think it led to so much hate online. You go on any Instagram comment section right now on a North Melbourne post that was in the draft, and there's literally more hate in there than what you would see in Taylor Swift's comment section. I think a lot of North Melbourne fans are frustrated just because they haven't made the 8 in so long, and they've, I think, been bottom 3 the last 5 years now. And of course, they are doing moves that are still controversial. But in today's video, I'm going to try and maybe not justify why North Melbourne did it, but of course give you my thoughts and opinions on why I think North Melbourne did it and why it might make sense to them. But again, before we do get into that, if you haven't already, there's still a decent amount of you guys who watch these videos who are not yet subscribed. So if you could do me a favor, please make sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and of course subscribe to the channel. It would mean a hell of a lot. But obviously, a quick little summary. North Melbourne, they got to a point in the draft where they realized there were a ton of really good key forwards available and key positional players, and they're like, well, we need key positional players so bad. We're kind of almost being put in a position here where we need to trade for one of these players. It just was really unfortunate for North Melbourne that this happens to be one of the most stacked drafts reportedly in AFL history, and every team who had pick 25 to pick 35 weren't really in a position to move, and no one really wanted to trade their pick, so they were always going to have to overpay in some capacity. And again, if they had a chance to trade for anyone's pick, it was probably going to be the team who had 800 first round picks that was going to be able to lend them one to, of course, use. So in kind of a semi-desperate move, North Melbourne said, we'll give you our first round pick, and we want your second round pick, but you've got, next year, obviously, your future second round pick, and the pick you've got this year, which is pick 27. Again, apparently Richmond were pretty hesitant on even doing that, because they really obviously did like this draft, and you never know what's going to happen in the future. But they, of course, decided to do the move because it was such an overpay, and they were able to get North Melbourne's future first, basically giving up 27 this year and probably 25 next year for that pick, which they are going to hope is going to be a top 5 selection. So of course North ended up getting that, and they ended up taking Matt Whitlock, which was very controversial at the time because he's not the key positional player as well that everyone thought they were going to get. People were saying they were going to get Jack Whitlock or Job Shanahan, etc, etc. Again, I personally think they probably got the right player out of all of them. I have a friend who obviously plays Stingrays, and he actually believes that, in his personal opinion, that Matt Whitlock was the much better brother, even though Jack was higher ranked. He said he liked Matt a lot more. He said he was a lot stronger and he can play multiple positions, which I think is why North took him there. So it's not about the player. I think it's more about the trade that a lot of people are very, very skeptical on. Again, Will Thurstfield, the former Richmond player and I think Richmond scout, who is now North Melbourne's manager, did try and justify it. He did, of course, go public and say that he thinks it was a very good move and they really needed a key position player, and they saw a guy there they found and they were just like, we got to take this guy. So obviously, they seem pretty confident in what they did, and they really liked it. Again, end of the day, did they overpay for this player? Well, yes, they did. But did they need to do it? I think they kind of had to, because I think it was a massive mistake in the first place to trade pick 25 for Caleb Daniel or whatever it was, like a month or so ago. That is, I think, one of the worst trades I have nearly ever seen. And that's from someone who really likes Caleb Daniel, but there's no way he was worth more than any pick higher than 40, right? Or lower than 40, I should say. And why I say that is because you're looking at a dude who's like about to go in his 30s or whatever, who is a really small backman who already has been in and out of a finals contending team. And you've just traded pick 25 for one of the, again, more average role players, and you've traded that pick in one of the better known drafts that we've seen. So moving that pick was always stupid, and there was always probably going to be a tall positional player here that North could have possibly taken. So they shouldn't have done that trade. That was the first trade that really messed them up. If they didn't do that trade, they would have never had to trade their first round pick to Richmond in the first place. So if you think about it, they technically traded away their future first round pick for Caleb Daniel, which is mind-blowing. But as I just said, North had to do it because there was key positional players available that they needed. And not just that, this team has been rebuilding for a hell of a long time. Longer than nearly any other team I can remember. I swear they've been rebuilding with high draft picks since like 2018. And that might even be like an underestimate on how long they've had high draft picks. It may have even been earlier where they were in like, getting LDU at like pick 4, pick 5 or whatever. But again, last couple of years, they've had players go in the top 3 like Will Phillips, Jason Horn-Francis, and that was when it really, really started. They need to go now. They need to realize that this is the core. This is what we need to do. And we can't be continuously hitting the draft every year, because we just need to do something and prove to our fans that this is the young core we've got, and we need to move on and hopefully contend for finals in a couple of years. Now, the issue with North Melbourne is there is still so much more they have to do, because I think this rebuild of theirs has been relatively flawed. And I mean, a lot of North Melbourne fans will tell you that. One of my good mates is a North Melbourne fan. He doesn't like the rebuild. Another good mate of mine, who was actually a teacher of mine at high school, North Melbourne fan, he used to just say relocate him to Tasmania, and that was in like 2020. And I don't think things have gotten that much better for him. Again, every year in the top 5, they always take midfielders, and they really haven't created a spine that has showed that it can be a long-lasting spine. Again, they're still looking for their key back. They're still looking for their number 2 key forward with, Larkey. It is an issue for North Melbourne, and players like Jack Darling are not the answer as their second key forward. Players like Caleb Daniel down back are probably not the answer, especially long-term. They realistically probably should have gone Alex Taru at pick 3. Just matched Ashcroft early at 2, gone for Taru at pick 3, and just said, look, we know Foz is probably the better player, but we really need a backman, and Taru is sitting right there. That's just how I think about it. I think that was more of a flaw in their draft than, them trading their future first. The thing is, we know that they tried so desperate to trade that pick 2 away to try and get 2 later first round picks, but just no team wanted to move in the draft really at the start at all, because it was so deep and the depth was so insane. Every team knew they were going to get a good player at their pick no matter what. So that's why I think North should have just bit the bullet and taken Alex Taru with that pick. But yeah, that first round pick to Richmond, it will probably be top 5. I don't think North will finish second or third last like they have for the last 100 million years. I am personally more high on North Melbourne. I think they'll finish on about a 14th or a 13th. Again, I think some certain teams will drop here and there, maybe like an Essendon, like a GWS. But a team like North Melbourne, they should be rising very, very shortly. And Again, they semi have a spine now. They still don't really, but at least you've got Darling to help out. Comben played down back for them and was pretty good. They're at least building something, and that midfield should be too overpowered not to be at least something in the league. But again, I'd very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions. Why do you guys think North Melbourne traded their future first round pick away? And I'd very much like to know. Again, don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for all the latest AFL content and news. Don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channels and my IRL/vlogging channels as well, which will be getting all linked in the description down below. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.